Hi, this is Kevin Gong, and this is my Chess-Tactics video on pins. So a pin is where one of the long-range pieces, the rook, bishop, or queen, is attacking a piece and there's something more valuable behind it. So in this case, this knight here is pinned because if it moves, then black can take the queen. So usually to exploit a pin, what you want to do is attack the pinned piece a second time. So in this case, black can move the pawn to e4, attacking the knight. Again, the knight can't move because it would expose the queen. So whatever white does, the next move, black can take the knight. Okay, so let's look at another example. Here, the white rook at c1 has pinned the knight because the king is directly behind it. And we can bring our knight up to d5, attacking it a second time. And it can't move, it can't take the knight because that would expose the king to check. So whatever black does, white takes the knight on the next move. Okay, so sometimes you don't want to just win material when you have pinned your opponent. Sometimes you can use it to force checkmate. So do you see the checkmate here? Queen to g8, checkmate. So you might have at first dismissed this possibility because you might think, well, the bishop could just take the queen, right? But no, because it's pinned. The rook at h1 prevents the bishop from moving anywhere because the king is on the h-file. So checkmate is always better than just winning material. So sometimes you can get out of a pin. So in this case, the knight at f3 is pinned, and black moves the pawn down to attack it. So one way to sort of escape a pin is to counterattack. So in this case, we can attack the piece that's attacking our pin piece. And if it moves back, then we'll just attack it again. And now our knight is no longer pinned. So black could still take it, but then we take the bishop. So black could choose to do that, or take the pawn, and then we'll take the bishop. I'll take the knight, and we'll take the pawn. So that's kind of like a trade there. So we've, in effect, escaped the pin without losing any material. So sometimes you want to use a pin and fork in combination. So here, I'll move the rook to d6, pinning the bishop, and the black king can't move to g6 or g5 to protect it, so he has to move the rook to protect it, and then move our queen down to f7, attacking or forking the bishop and rook. Now note that neither of these pieces are actually pinned anymore. The bishop can move away, but if it does, then white can just play queen takes rook checkmate. And if the rook moves away, then white can take the bishop. Okay, so we've looked at positions where the king or queen is sort of the basis for the pin. But you can have a pin or sort of a virtual pin where there's actually nothing behind the pin piece. So in this case, the black knight on b5 is sort of virtually pinned because if it moves away, white can play rook to b8, checkmate. So noticing that, white can play a4, attacking the knight, and either black will lose the knight, or if it moves away, then we'll play check, checkmate. Okay, so that won't come up as often as having the king or queen behind the pin piece, but it's something to think about, especially with regards to the back rank mate, since that's such a common scenario. So, um, besides thinking about your opponent's pieces that are pinned, you should also think about your own pieces that are pinned. So this was the very first over-the-board game that I played, and I was playing white, and my opponent, as black, didn't realize that this pawn on the d-file was basically pinned, and he decided to move it to d4, attacking my knight, except that it's not really attacking the knight, because if it takes the knight, I will just take his queen. So he was probably hoping that I'd move my knight away, and then he'd move his knight to e3. But for one, I could just take his knight, and then if he does take my knight, which he did, then I'll just take his queen. So, I showed one game where I won. I should probably show one where I lost, and this is my most embarrassing game, and also the shortest over-the-board game that I've played. So I was playing white, and so in this position I took the bishop, not noticing that black had a mate in 1. Black played knight to d3, checkmate. And so if you go back to this position, go back here. Now I didn't realize that this pawn here at e2 was going to be pinned. It was kind of concealed because of the knight on e5, which was in between the queen and the pawn. But once I took the bishop and he moved the knight here, that exposed the pin, and so I can't take the knight with the pawn because of the queen here, and I have nowhere to go, so that's checkmate. So be careful about your own pieces that are pinned. So I want to end with a game that I played online just a short time a while ago. So I was playing black, and I noticed that I've got my rook lined up with his king here, so this pawn is pinned. So I took it, and I knew that once he took with a bishop, that bishop would now be pinned. And so to exploit that, what I did was I moved my knight to f5, attacking the queen, and also threatening to play knight to e3. Now white may not realize that that's a threat, because he'll probably think, well, if you move the knight there, I'll just take with the bishop. No big deal. But once I move that knight away, that bishop is going to be pinned. So white actually took this knight here, which looks like it's just hanging for free, and then I played knight e3, check, doing a triple fork with the king, rook, and queen, and the bishop can't take the knight because of the rook here, and so I'll win his queen. So I hope that you've learned some things about pins. Thanks for watching.